Hey everybody, on today's episode of TTS Today, we're going to continue with the quotation series. In the past, I've shown you how to create quotes using a number of different methods, but we never went over some of the additional options that show up when you have an existing quote. So we're going to do that today, as well as show you the search quotation feature. All this and more on today's episode of TTS Today. All right, so let's go over the search quotation feature. Now I have it set up in my quick launch, so you can actually go from there, or you can find it under quotations and search. Search is real simple, but there are some tips I'd like to share with you. Quote name, for instance. So it is a wildcard search. So if I'm looking for the word demo, I could just type in demo and it will give me all quotes with the name demo. By product, if I have a particular product, again, wildcard, this is going to give me all quotes. By the way, keep in mind, right now I have a date of 9/16/2019, so it's going back a couple of years. If I wanted to limit this search, I could put 2022 in there, and then I can easily go back to August, for instance. And then I will search for everything with a 6X. And this is under product, so I happen to have 2 in there. And then I can click on that, and it will open up the quote. And notice we should have a option here, and these are the new options that I'm going to go over, but one is back to report. So whenever you do a search or come from a different location, you will have this back to report, and it'll bring me back to where I initially started from. And notice actually it defaulted back to the 2019, so I got all the 6H's going back that many years. And last, you can do a description search as well. But actually, let's go to one of these quotes. We'll do pricing. Okay, so let's move down and go through some of these new additional features. Current quote. When you make changes to quotes, by the way, we do keep a revision history, and it will only be, and I don't have one on here. Let's go back to search. So let's go back to report. Let's do demo. See if I can find something with a revision history. All right, so our first quote option shows you a box with current quote. If I drop this down and if there were revisions done, so every time you make a change, it could be as simple as changing the vendor, or changing a group, or changing the body of the quote itself, it will maintain a revision. So next option, we've already gone through. This is the way to import quotes. Add customer. This is a big one. So let's say you want to duplicate this quote, everything but add a new customer to it. Obviously, you may be quoting for multiple distributors with the same bill of material. So I would click on Add Customer. And notice right here on this one, we do have 2 customers already, but I could drop this down and I could pick a third one. They give you the ability to either add the same price, or I can increase it or decrease it based on a multiplier. So if I wanted to give a 0.75% or a 25% discount on this, I can do that. And save and add. And now you'll see we have 3 customers listed on here. This will become more apparent too when we do reports. You have the ability to compare one quote to 3 customers and see why there are differences in there. Might be something that you need to do, and that will show you in the reports. section of quotations. So let's go back to the quote and continue on with the options. So we have add to calendar. Click on this. Basically, it'll give you an ICS downloadable file that you can import into any compatible program, calendar program. So Google Calendars, Outlook calendars, you can do all that. And we have add vendor. So add vendor versus add customer. If we're going to change or add an additional vendor, now we can have this body or this bill of material for multiple vendors. So this vendor that's listed here is the main vendor, but we can add any type of bill of material in here. This is if we wanted to change the main vendor of the quote. So basically it's like adding a new quote, keeping the same name though. So we have TTS Today Pricing, which was the name of the last quote, but it will actually provide or assign a new quotation number. Notice the bill of material was cleared out. So now we're going to start entering new information. So it's a way of copying basically the name and the customer, but adding a totally new bill of material. So it's a brand new quote in essence. So let's go back. And we'll continue looking at options here. So assign action. If you remember in earlier videos, we had action items. Basically, this is like a follow-up. So right now we have a quotation team of myself and anybody else we add here. Let's say you wanted to assign this, not assign them to the quote per se, but assign a follow-up or assign it to an actionable item. So we can assign different people here. Give it a due date, for instance, and also send an email. And what will happen is when this person logs in, they'll have it on their dashboard or in their action items that they have a quote to act upon, in addition to the quotation team. So it's a way to add an additional person or add an action item that will notify someone to look at this quote at a later date. Let's go back to the quote and we'll continue on. So we have back to report. Again, we came from a search screen, so that's why back to report is here. Change Q name, that is our quotation name. So if I had a misspelling in here, we would click on change Q name, and then you would type in that updated Q name, and it will change it on the quote and all quotes. So if you have multiple customers, it'll change all of them. Create MS Excel. Some people may want to have a backup, it'll always be on the screen in the TTS application, but if you want a hard copy, and this is just going to be a dump of the quote, I can just dump it to Excel. And then we just have a hard copy. It's not protected. There's no buttons for sending like you remember from the last videos. So it's just a hard copy of that quote. We can dump it to PDF. And we have two options for PDF. So let's save this one and show you what this is. Now, I didn't add any pricing because I'm saving this video or this quote for my pricing demo, which I'm going to do next. But notice here we have each line item with their extension price, okay, and a total price. If I go back to the quote, you see this checkbox, totals only. So let's say you want to create a PDF and you don't want to see the item pricing, but just the total pricing. That's what we're going to see here. So I open that up. Notice that these are all blank, and we do have a total amount listed there. So this was the previous one. We have all our line items priced out. This one just has totals. That's the difference for that. And of course, you may not want this quote in the system. You made a mistake, you want to start over, you can delete quote. And it will prompt you because this will permanently delete a quote. So you want to make sure that you want to do that. Factory quote, we have the ability to, of course, add factory quotes. So that's the same option that we've had. Internal notes, I'm going to go over that in a second. And project view, this is something we haven't seen before. Everything else down here is exactly the same. So the last two items we're going to go through is project view. So this, you have to go back to my project, and I'll note that in this video, the project or opportunity video showing you about creating projects. But this particular quote was assigned to a project. And if you remember, projects just is a great way of combining a bunch of information. In this case, we can combine multiple quotes. We can combine multiple files. We can have multiple project companies, contacts, all in one project view. So this particular quote happened to be assigned to a project, so that's why you see the project view. And internal notes is the last section. Now we went over internal notes, but there's a lot of different options in internal notes that I didn't go over, but this is a great spot to look at them. First, internal notes are just that. We have notes that are internal to your organization, so only people inside can see this. We can save your notes, save change status for all. We're going to go over that in a second. And we can actually add a recap. This is a new feature. So we added the ability to add a CRM recap to this particular quote. So by clicking save and add recap, it brings us to our CRM section and adding a call entry, sales call entry, and we can assign this quote, and you notice it actually will identify the quote that you're working on. It's a quote update. If you have some information for some reason and you want to add it to a sales call for a quote, you can do that directly from within the internal notes. So let's go back to the quote. Let's go back to internal notes. And the only thing we really haven't discussed in other than pricing is how do we end quotes or win a quote? How do we assign these statuses to it? So we have a bunch of statuses that are available to us. Buy is going to be your default. So that's the one that we're on right now. The status is buy. Open would be that the contractor was awarded the job, but it's looking for a price. So maybe you're negotiating prices, so you can assign this as open in that case. Bid is the contractor was not awarded the job yet, but it's in the bidding stage. So it's passed by, but it's in bid. So you got some information about this quote, but it's not won or lost yet. Won, obviously, when you win this quote, you can status as won. Lost if you've lost the quote. Closed means you really never got the order. You didn't really lose the quote, but it was closed out. You never received an order for this particular quotation. And then no info. They're not returning my calls. No one ever get back to you about this quote. You may have made a couple of inquiries about the quote. No one ever calls you back. So it's not considered lost, because you don't know if you lost it or just whatever the case may be. No info was received on that, so you can label that. And these are important because obviously won and lost is important because you want to see some statistics on that. But also when we do reports, we have a quote roll-up section. So you can actually see the percentage of quotes that were won versus lost. Also ones that you didn't get any info on. So that may be very important to you. You didn't necessarily lose that quote or lose the bidding on that quote, but you didn't get any information on it. So it's important to see that, and that's why we have more than your one lost status. And once you select a status and you click on Save Change Status for All, if you have multiple customers like I showed you earlier, they will all be updated. Obviously, if this one was won, everybody else will be updated as lost. So that is the way to update your status with a quick click. And then you go. That's the additional options we have on existing quotes. Again, thanks again for watching. If you're new to our videos, I haven't mentioned this in the past couple of videos, but we do answer questions online or in a video format. So if you have a question, send it to asktts@tradetechsolutions.com, and maybe we'll answer it, or we'll definitely answer it in a video presentation on our YouTube channel. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.